If you are drunk and a woman is drunk, she cannot force you to have sex with her. For sex to occur, an erection has to be there. So let's assume that you're drunk and your partner is also drunk. You cannot claim, oh, she tried to rape me. After all, it's the same thing. It's not the same thing because she cannot force you in your sleeping state or in your unconscious state to have an erection. Hello, welcome to Bitter Feminist Podcast, the podcast where we talk about feminist issues from the perspective of an African woman living in Africa. I am your resident Bitter Feminist host, Ijeoma. Today we're going to be talking about another aspect of nuances of consent that people tend to shy away from. We'll be talking about inebriated consent and examining if it is really consent. Inebriated consent is consent gotten when one partner, in this case a woman, is intoxicated or under the influence of drugs, alcohol, etc. When you meet a woman you haven't been intimate with and you ply her with copious amounts of alcohol, molly, weed, and she falls asleep and you have sex with her, does that consent count? We're going to examine this topic because it happens a lot. We have so many cases of men who have sex with women they've not been intimate with before, and they meet, they drink, or maybe they smoke a little weed, and then the woman is unconscious, or maybe she falls asleep, or maybe he says, oh, can we have sex? And the woman goes, yeah, let's do it. And then when they are done, the following morning, the woman has no recollection of what happened and she claims she was raped. And the man goes, no. I asked you, you said let's have sex. I asked you, you said you were okay with it. And then it becomes a thing. And we've seen this happen so many times. And the men would go, oh, see, she asked for it. She was even on top. She was bouncing. She was riding him. And the woman would go, no, I have no recollection of this. I did not know when this happened. And it becomes a thing. That consent that was gotten when this woman was inebriated, when she was intoxicated, when she was semi-conscious or totally unconscious, is that consent real consent? Is inebriated consent real consent? And that is what we're going to examine today. First thing you need to understand in this inebriated consent discussion is it is different if it is a normal sex partner whom you've obtained consent from before. If the woman in question is your fuck buddy or your girlfriend or somebody you've been intimate with before, it is different. But when it is someone new, you have to be sure that consent was obtained when they were sober. You have to make sure that your first sexual event, your first sexual incident with any person, with any woman, was done when she was 100% sober. And when all her thinking faculties were there, she said yes with her chest. She literally said yes to you. Not because she was drunk, not because she was high, not because she was asleep. When women, not just women, when people take alcohol, drugs, weed, it lowers their inhibitions. So they tend to say yes to things they would not have said yes to if they were sober. There are so many things that I would never do if I'm sober. I don't know how to dance, but if I'm drunk, I dance like a fool. Now, the same thing goes for women. There are so many women that would not have sex with you with their clear eye. They won't have sex with you if they were sober. Now, when you ply them with copious amounts of alcohol, you're trying to do one of two things. You're trying to either make them lower their inhibitions so that they don't care, so that they can even fuck a goat if push comes to shove. They don't care who they're having sex with, one. Or you're trying to knock them out. You're trying to get them to sleep. You're trying to get them to become unconscious so that you can then have sex with a sleeping woman just so you won't have sex. Now, both of them are evil. Both of them are wrong. And in both cases, you did not obtain consent. If you ask a woman that does not know where she is, that can barely think, that some of them don't even remember their addresses, when they are that high and zoned out. If you ask her, what is your name? Where do you stay? She probably won't remember. So why do you want to take her word for it? When she says yes, you want her to say yes to having a sexual act with you. That is the one you want to hold on to. This is somebody who does not remember her name, probably her phone number, her address, because she's zoned out or because she's asleep, because she's under the influence. But you want to take her yes to be yes, just because you want to have sex. It is not enough for her to say yes. You have to think, was she under the influence of drugs or alcohol when she did? If she was, consent is null. And I'm not just saying this for technical purposes. Legally, in a lot of countries, I don't know about Nigeria, but I think we have a law like that. But legally, in a lot of countries, consent obtained when the other party, when the woman is knocked out, when the woman is inebriated, is null. One of the excuses men give for this is, they say, me too, I was drunk too. Both of us were drunk. Why is it on me to be the one to make the good decisions? If it's rape now, I can also sue her for raping me. After all, me too, I was drunk. But the truth about this is, if you are drunk and a woman is drunk, she cannot force you to have sex with her. For sex to occur, an erection has to be there. So let's assume that you're drunk and your partner is also drunk. You cannot claim, she tried to rape me. After all, it's the same thing. It's not the same thing, because she cannot force you in your sleeping state or in your unconscious state to have an erection. The person doing all that is you, is the man. Is the man that will have an erection on his own. He's the one that will undress the semi-conscious or unconscious woman. He's the one that will spread her legs and then have his way with her. And then in the following morning, he'll say, both of us were drunk. It doesn't work that way. And we've seen it happen so many times where even though a lady consented, she knew what was happening at the time, she would wake up in the morning and say, I was not aware. And she would be right, because the consent you claim you got was gotten when she was under the influence. Your emotions and outrage won't change the fact that inebriated consent is no consent. Let me give you this example. If you're thirsty and you're walking on the road, you pass a house and from the window you can see the fridge inside and you know that they have cold water. You approach the house and you knock, but the house is open. It looks like the owner of the house is not home. What do? Do you enter, drink your cold water and sneak up before he comes back? Or do you leave because even if you're thirsty, the owner of the house is not around? A or B? Now, answer that question. Now that you've answered it, let's continue. If you chose A, that is, you entered inside, hurriedly drank your cold water and tried to sneak off before the owner of the house comes back, there are likely scenarios that will happen. Scenario one is, you poured yourself a glass of water, and as you're drinking the water, the owner comes out and finds you a stranger in his house drinking his water. He could wave it off, strike up a conversation with you, and bid you farewell. Or he could get out his gun and shoot you for trespassing into his property and tell the whole world you're a thief. Which technically you are, because you actually trespassed into his house and stole his water. The scenario two, let's still go ahead and still imagine he didn't meet you in his house, but he came back and noticed someone broke into his house in his absence and took his water. He could let it be and blame himself for leaving his house open. Or he could call the police and report a breaking and entering. Scenario three, let's still imagine that he met you in the house, told you it was alright, and even offered you mango juice on top. Then he saw you off to the driveway. You left feeling he won't mind. But when you went back to his house, he had a rethink. It's sort of a buyer's remorse. It dawned on him that you actually broke into his house and stole his water. And he starts feeling antsy and vulnerable and traumatized. He calls the police and tells them to arrest you. And despite your claim that he didn't mind, you still end up going to jail. Or he doesn't mind that you took the water, but he Googled you and found out that you were famous. So he figured he could make a buck from you since you sabi thief water. And despite your claim that he didn't mind, you still have to cough up serious money for settlement and your name will be tarnished. Do you see where I'm going with all of this? So you see a random woman, she's inebriated, she's drunk, she's intoxicated, she's high, and you figure, okay, this is an easy target. There are two options. You could have sex with her, after all, she's high, or you could just say, I beg, I don't want a problem. If I'm going to have sex with this woman, it would be when she's sober. Now, if you decided to do the first option, you went to her, undressed her, you had sex with her while she was drunk, passed out, two things could happen. She could wake up while you were having sex with her and either be into it, or she could see you on top of her having sex with her and scream, because it is rape. Another scenario is, okay, let's assume that, okay, you had sex with her in the morning, you left. She could just wake up and blame herself and be like, oh, this is my fault. I shouldn't have been drinking. I shouldn't have been drinking with a random stranger. I shouldn't have exposed myself to this. And you get away with it. She could also wake up the next morning and say, fuck this shit, I'm going to the police. And she goes on to report you, or she comes on social media to call you out, or she tells her friends who call you out. That is another way it could go. The third way, the third scenario, she could be into it, be okay with it, have sex with you, even give you a quickie in the morning. And when she gets to her house, she will not have everything. Maybe she'll read a post, she'll do some self-examination, she'll tell a friend, and a friend will be like, that was rape. That initial sex that man had with you was rape. And then it will dawn on her that you actually took advantage of her. This might happen the next day, the next week, the next month, the next year. And then she'll call the police and tell them to arrest you, or she'll come and drag you on social media, or come and make a claim a year or two later. And then you'll be saying, but she didn't mind then. She was okay. She even gave me back shots. She realized what happened was rape, and she called you out, and she has every right to. And there are some women, these women are not really in the majority, but there are some women who would actually not mind. But when they now Google you and find out that, oh, you're actually a big deal and they can make a quick buck out of this, they take it up. And because it is technically rape, you're still going to get dogged out, you're still going to get your name besmirched, you're still going to end up being tagged a rapist, because technically that is what you are. So what I'm trying to say is nothing good comes out of having sex with an unconscious woman or with an inebriated woman. I'm not just saying this for men, because obviously majority of my listeners are women. I'm saying this so women will also understand that if a man takes advantage of you when you're vulnerable, when you're drunk, when you're passed out, it is rape. There are literally rape drugs, date rape drugs that men slip into drinks. You take it and you fall asleep and they will have their way with you. You need to understand that when stuff like this happens, it is not your fault. You do not deserve it because you've been drinking. You do not deserve it because, oh, who told you to go to a man's house? The man is simply a stupid rapist. And I think because the word rape is heavy, we don't use it. We call it something else. We'll be like, he assaulted me when I was drunk. It's not assault. It was actually rape. I've had this happen to me before, but mine is a little bit complicated. There was this guy, we really liked ourselves, we had already planned how we're going to have sex. And then one day we went to my friend's birthday party. I didn't eat that day because we were literally the people in charge, arranging, bringing people. It was a huge party. And when the party was over, I was drunk. I didn't eat the whole of the day. I was drinking everything, cocktails, this, everything inside. And I went home with the guy because my friend lived in the same building. I went home with the guy. I woke up in the morning and I found out that I had sex with him. Before then, I had not had sex in 16 months. I went to pee and I felt open. I felt a little bit bruised. I felt uneasy. I came out and asked him, did we have sex? He said no. I was like, oh, okay. But I wasn't comfortable. I went back. Why do I feel somehow down there? He said, no, we didn't have sex. I was like, I'm going to create a scene because I know, even though we've always talked about having sex and everything, but I know that this is not how my body is. I know that I feel queasy down there. I was passed out the whole of last night. This morning, what happened? And he now told me, okay, he doesn't want me to create a scene, that I was okay with us having sex. I even initiated it and everything. All which could be true because up to today, I do not have any memory of that night. And if he says I initiated it, it could probably be true. It could be lying. It could be true. But the thing is, I have no memory of it. And I think the only reason why I did not term it rape and why I did not escalate it is because this is somebody I was already planning on having sex with. I told him, okay, what happened? He now started saying, okay, you said you wanted to have sex, that there was no need to keep it off. Everything he was saying sounds like what I would say. But still, I now had to sit him down and scold him and tell him, next time you do this type of thing to any other woman, it is rape. And the only reason I won't really target rape as such is not because I initiated it like he said, no, but because this was something that was already on its way. I I think a lot of men, including him, he didn't see it as rape. He saw it as, oh, after all, you're the one that initiated it and you're the one that wanted us to have sex. But the thing is, till today, I have no memory of that night. I have no memory of initiating sex. I had no memory of even having sex with him. And I think he knew what he did was wrong, because that was the only reason why he denied it the first time I asked him. So men know these things. Maybe there's a little voice in their head that tells them, okay, this is wrong. But they're like, but she asked for it. Next time a drunk woman approaches you, say no, especially if it's a woman you've not had sex with before. Say no. If the woman is vulnerable, say no. I gave you an example, a personal example about how it happened to me. And in my case, I didn't follow it all because, I had my reasons and everything. But that is not the case for everybody. There's an Hollywood actor, Nate Parker. It happened to him. Now, him and his friend had sex with a drunk girl when he was 19 in the college, in the university. Upon getting sober, she said it was rape. Some women wake up and they never had intentions of having sex with you. They are freaked out, they have PTSD, and rightly so, because they were raped. Now, in Nate Parker's case, him and his friend had sex with this drunk girl. When she woke up the following day, when she was sober, she said they raped her. They went to court and Nate was acquitted while his friend was convicted. Now, this lady was so traumatized by the incident. In fact, she was so traumatized that Nate Parker wasn't convicted. When he became famous, she committed suicide. In fact, she put it in her suicide letter. It's not like, it's something else that made her. She made it known that it was because Nate Parker raped her and she couldn't live with seeing her rapist's face everywhere being celebrated as a big Hollywood star. When she committed suicide, people stopped going to see Nate's movies. He became blacklisted. He became a pariah. Rape is not always see a woman, tear her clothes, push her down, rape her violently. No, this is something we need to understand as a society. Even if a woman is tripping before you and beckoning to you, as far as she's drunk, as far as she's out of sorts, leave her be. Men especially have to understand. Women also need to understand there is nothing like inebriated consent. You cannot give consent when you are drunk. When you see a big house, a beautiful house, a house in Ikoyi, a house in Banana Island, and you look and there's no gate man, the owner of the house is not around, and you just walk in and you sit down and you make yourself feel at home, it is still breaking and entering. The fact that there's no gate man, or maybe that the owner is not home, does not make it any less so. There is nothing like inebriated consent. It is not consent. Once you term it rape, you understand that, okay, this is what it is. It is rape. And that is something we all need to know. And the more we know about it, the more we make sure it doesn't happen anymore. That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Bitter Feminist Podcast. Follow us at Bitter Feminist Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. You can drop your contributions, questions, or even hot takes on any of our social media platforms. I'm still your host, Ijoma. See you on our next episode. Bye.